Good morning, students. We will start today's lesson. We have been doing all this time uh, investment banking subject, some syllabus topics which are relevant to rupee denominated instruments, right? If we take treasury bill, treasury bond, debenture, and everything, basically all these instruments are in rupee terms. Now that's a topic in your syllabus. We'll have to do whole is proprietary trading. Basically, we will be touching under this syllabus topic foreign exchange transaction. Not in detail, but the requirement or the portion, sufficient portion which is relevant to your syllabus. Now, all these days we have been doing with your issue management. Under issue management, we have completed the government transaction, that is treasury bill, treasury bond. We have learned features and the pricing and everything, and also relevant to shares we have completed, and debentures also we have done this, and also we have completed the topic of required rate of return, how to calculate, how to determine the required rate of return. Now, for example, if you go to purchase treasury bond or a debenture, then you need to know what is the pricing. So to calculate the price, you need to have the required rate of return, or in other words, discount rate. Under project appraisal, we have completed this. Now today we will be learning different currencies. Apart from rupees, we are moving to foreign currency. So examiner has tested several transactions, not frequently. Examiner has not tested frequently, but he has tested twice or thrice. There was a question in the first paper, under the new syllabus 2014. There was one question, easy question, and then later on they have examiner has tested some question in your investment banking exam, right? So basically we'll be touching the required portion to this syllabus topic only. Now this foreign exchange transaction section actually much more needed when you are doing financial market operation. There were a lot of questions in that paper, but when you do it to past papers, we'll be touching those questions as well. So coverage of question, no issue, we can do that, but only thing you take into the account, take into the mind, what is the concept that we are going to learn today. So foreign exchange transaction. Now generally, so what do you mean by foreign exchange transaction? Why do we need foreign exchange transaction? Now see, we as Sri Lankan, we are not confined to the trade and business to Sri Lanka only. We'll have to do transaction with other countries as well. So when you want to do other countries, when you do transaction with other countries, you need to have a mode of transaction. Basically the mode of settlement of the transaction. Now say, why do we need foreign exchange transaction? Why do we need? So we basically do export transaction. We do import transaction. We go for bilateral trading. We are lending. We are borrowing. A lot of international related transaction, offshore related transaction we are doing as a country, as individual. So then, when you want to make the settlement, you need to have common platform to make settlement. Now you do the production in Sri Lanka in rupee terms. Cost, profit margin, selling price, everything is in rupee terms. But whatever the rupee terms, when you want to sell it to the other country, the offshore customer, you need to price in a different currency. or the, for example, now we say, now when you are exporting tea to Iran, example. Now when you export tea to Iran, Iran people doesn't know, Iran people don't know the currency about LKR. They don't have LKR. So then we need to tell them this is the price of this much kilo of tea. So what is the currency in Iran? So generally, are we using that currency? Now, for example, you say India. India, we are importing from India. So Indian pricing are Indian rupees, right? When they bring, when the goods are bringing to Sri Lanka, if they're pricing whatever their currency, Indian currency, can we pay that? We can't do that. We don't have the Indian currency with us, Indian rupees with us. Right? So basically, there should be a common platform for you to make payment, for you to receive payment, vice versa. So then, in the world, there are accepted currencies. Now, in Sri Lanka also, we have accepted designated currency. We call it designated currency. There are 13, 14 designated currencies. Those are the currencies in your bank. You accept deposits. Now, for example, if you say Qatar Riyal, is a designated currency, but you don't accept deposits. You are not authorized to accept deposits. But if you take Chinese renminbi, designated currency, you can accept deposits as well. That is the latest addition to the deposit allowable currency, Chinese renminbi. There are Qatar Riyal, Kuwait Riyal. If I bring Kuwait Riyal from Kuwait, you can convert into whatever the rupees. Kuwait Riyal, the currency note. When you go to Kuwait, you can ask from the bank and you're giving rupees and you can take Kuwait Riyal as well. But do you accept deposits? No. You don't accept deposits in Qatar Riyal or the Kuwait Riyal. Those are not deposit acceptable currency. Right? Those are not the much popular currencies in the world. But there are popular currencies in the world. There are several, but we actually do the transaction generally in terms of USD. So USD is the most accepted currency in the world. There are few. You can have it in euros, you can have it in GBP, that is to JPY, you can no issue. But the mostly accepted currency in the world is USD. So as I told you, now why do we need this? When you want to make a payment, when you want to receive the payment, you need to have a mode of settlement of this particular currency. So then we need this much of different currency mode. Now, for example, now we say now in Sri Lanka, now how this foreign currency transaction relevant to us, people who are working in the investment banking division or the students learning investment banking subject, how does it relevant to you? Now, this is how it's relevant to you. Why do we want to learn this foreign currency transaction? Is now say foreigner comes to Sri Lanka to invest in whatever the rupee denominated instrument in Sri Lanka. What are the rupee denominated instruments in Sri Lanka? Example, treasury bill, treasury bond, those are government instruments. Any foreigner can invest in government securities. There is no restriction. They can invest in government securities. And also they can invest in shares as well. And debentures as well. They can invest. There is no issue. They can invest. Right? They can invest. There is no issue. They can invest. But the only thing, if they bring money to Sri Lanka, they are bringing money to Sri Lanka other than the LKR. Other than LKR. They are foreigners. They are bringing money to Sri Lanka in, for example, we say dollars. Now they need to convert into rupee to make the investment in Sri Lanka. So then there you need foreign currency transaction. That's why you are learning foreign currency transaction. Now the examiner has tested several questions. Now once he has tested, exporter is there. Exporter export T to Germany, and exporter receives 2 million euro, and is asking what is the LKR value to be credited to his account. That's the transaction he has. That's a question examiner has tested. But only thing is, we'll have to learn there is a currency pair. Now, for example, if you say USD LKR, so how do we write USD LKR? Now, what is the rate? Present rate is USD LKR is a 193. Now, when the start of this year, 2021, the USD LKR currency was 185. Now it's trading at 193 yesterday, the day before yesterday, 193, right? 193 level, 193 to 4 level. Now once it reached to 198 level. Now for example, we say what has happened to the LKR? What has happened to the USD? We say the USD LKR rate. Now we have been paying January 1st 185 USD LKR. So the USD LKR means 1 USD equal 185 LKR. एक USD එකට රුපියල් දෙනවා 185. How much now they are getting? එක USD එකට now bank pays 193 example. What has happened? The amount you pay, the rupee amount you pay for $1 has gone up. How do you call it? Now this can be tested. These terms can be tested for 2-mark question. Now what has happened to rupees? What has happened to LKR, USD? Now any country's currency, the amount you pay more is weak. Now who pays more here? Right. So basically now, see now what has happened to the rupee? What has happened to the LKR, USD? Now the amount you pay to have $1 has gone up from 185 to 192 or 93, whatever. So we call the amount you pay in terms of LKR has gone up. So your currency's LKR is weak compared to the USD. Why? You pay more. So we call it rupee has depreciated. LKR has depreciated. The amount you pay, the more amount you pay meaning your country's economy is more weak. The amount you pay getting more and more means particular country's economy is weaker. So example is now rupee has depreciated. So one currency and two currency pair we have USD LKR. LKR depreciated means USD has appreciated. So that is how. So basically when the country's currency is depreciated, you have to pay more. That's the theory. When the country's currency is depreciated, you have to pay more. Why? Your economy is weak compared to the other country. Now, for example, now if you say GBP to dollar, so GBP to dollar means what? GBP to dollar. GBP ekakata, how much you pay in dollar? How much you pay in dollar? So 1.8 1.38. GBP එකකට you pay in dollars 1.38. So you pay more. USD pays more. So the USD currency is weak than the GBP. That's how we actually take it. Now, if we take four currencies in the world, AUD, New Zealand dollars, Euro, New Zealand dollars, AUD, Euro, and GBP. Those are the four currencies starting with their currency. Now say GBP that is England currency. They're starting with their currency pair is starting with GBP dollar. If you say Euro dollar. How about our one? Our country's currency is LKR. We don't say LKR USD. We say USD LKR. So those are the only four currencies: GBP, Euro, New Zealand dollars, and AUD are the four currencies in the world quoted in the first place. The first place is their country's currency. We call it indirect report, indirect quote. There are two types of quotes, direct and indirect, but we don't need to have these things for you, but for your knowledge purpose, you learn. There are two types of currency quotes, direct and indirect. Direct always starts with USD. USD is on your left hand side. That is direct quote. Now, example, you keep in mind R1, USD LKR, that is USD is on your left hand side, that is direct quote. Right? If you say GBP, Euro, AUD, and New Zealand dollars, those are indirect quotes. Right? Those are indirect quotes. Now, those are indirect quotes. Those are indirect quotes. Now in the world, now generally this foreign exchange market it starts with the market opening of Japan, right? Then now when we go to sleep, when we finish our thing, US started, UK started, Eurozone started. So this is actually 24-hour around the world, 24-hour open currency market. Started with the opening of JPY, finishing with the US. So that is basically we call it the pricing. And the price is also negotiated, price is also determined with two different horizons. Right? Now, examiner can test you several things from you like this. Now, examiner can give you for 2-mark question different countries' currencies. Generally, he may ask you a question on this gold. Now, when you import gold, now these are the things that will be commodity market. Now, if you can remember the first lecture we have delivered to you, I have given some markets, money markets, capital markets, foreign exchange markets, forward markets, derivative markets. The last one we learned commodity market. So under commodity market, gold is one of them. Platinum is one of them, silver is one of them. These are actually relevant to our subject only now. Commodity market, if you say commodity market, everything comes, sugar, flour, everything comes. But here actually we are focusing on this financial transactions, financial products only. Gold, if you say gold, but in the dealing arena, we call it XAU. This is how you interpret it. Now, Sri Lanka rupees, how do you say LKR? That is the term. Japanese yen, how do you say JPY? Similarly, if you say gold, it should be XAU. Platinum XPT. Silver XAG. Same like that, right? So please remember these things, but examiner can test you these things, commodity market. But I don't think that we will test you this. what is the currency code of this particular country's currency pair. For example, if you say pound sterling, it's a GBP, right? Now, examiner can test you for 2 marks these things. And also he can test you this, the final one, the nostro, the last one, nostro and vostro. What do you mean by nostro and vostro? Now say, now if you want to do a transaction with another country, now for example, you see, you want to import a vehicle. You want to import a vehicle from Japan, example. So how do? You go to the bank and you open LC. LC is a method of payment. There are 4 types of method of payment in international trade. That's the international trade. Open account, advance account, DP terms, and LC, letter of credit. Letter of credit. Letter of credit is basically bank is assuring to the supplier's bank if the customer does not pay or the supplier does not or the customer does not, we will assure you to pay. So basically bank to bank involved. So you actually the importer is me. So I'm going to import a vehicle from Japan, Toyota. So the Toyota doesn't know who I am. So basically Toyota asking his bank to have a relationship with my bank. So that's a transaction, bank to bank transaction. Right? Bank to bank, they have a trust in each other. So basically you open a LC there and you will be receiving. So what happens is you give rupees to the bank. The bank will send whatever the currency requirement to the Japan. So how do you send money to there? Similarly, so they'll have to remit money to whatever the Toyota bank account. So for you to send money to Toyota bank account, you need to open an account in Toyota's bank. Is a Mitsui Bank. There is a bank called in Japan Mitsui, or a bank of BTM. What you call Bank of Mitsubishi. Bank of Mitsubishi. So we say, for example, Toyota has an account in Bank of Mitsubishi. So then you should have to say, I am the customer. So I am the customer of, we say, ABC Bank. So the ABC Bank has an account in the Japan Bank of Mitsubishi. Otherwise, how can you credit money? You can't. You can't send money. Similarly, we do. If you want to credit to somebody's account, you should have an account. Whatever the bank, it doesn't matter. Now here the Toyota has account in Japan Bank of Mitsubishi. So if you want to send money to bank, you should have a relationship. You should have a relationship with your bank has a relationship with Bank of Mitsubishi. Otherwise, you can't. So there are 2 types of relationships. Remember, for your knowledge, one thing is nostro relationship. Nostro relationship. The other one is RMA relationship. So nostro relationship means your bank has an account in the other bank. Now this Bank of Mitsubishi. Bank of Mitsubishi කියන බැංකුවේ account එකක් open කරනවා කවුද? ඔයාගේ බැංකුව. ඔයාගේ බැංකුව you can open account. So basically our account with them. Our account. මගේ බැංකුවේ account with them. We call it what? Nostro. Our account with them. The account එක ඒගොල්ලෝ ළඟ. Our account with them, that is nostro. Their account with us, that is vostro. That is vostro. For example, now say we have migrant workers working abroad. They need to send money to Sri Lanka in rupee terms sometimes. So here I am maintaining a rupee account. So they are earning in different countries, they are earning in different countries, different currencies. They need to convert those currency into rupees and they need to convert and they need to credit to Sri Lankan account. So then that country's so exchange house or whatever the bank they are dealing with has to open account with us in rupee terms. We call it as their account with us. We call it vostro. Please remember these two words: gold, platinum, silver, and nostro and vostro. That is important. And this nostro vostro account, the name has been tested in the other exam, financial market operation. So only the nostro has tested. Remember that. Now, two types of transaction, nostro and vostro. When you have a nostro relationship, you open account there. If you have a RMA relationship, you don't want to open account there, but only in a relationship. අපි කියමු මොකක් කර රටකින් මොකක් හරි භාණ්ඩයක් ගෙන්නනවා but මේ ලංකාවේ බැංකුව එකකටවත් ඒ account එකක් නැහැ බැංකුවේ. but ඔය රටින් ගෙන්නනවා බඩුවක්. then when you want to send money to whatever the bank in that particular country, you can have RMA relationship for that transaction only. You don't want to open account. උදාහරණයක් විදිහට දැන් මම සල්ලි යවන්න ඕන නම් HMB එකට වෙන කාගේ account එකකට මගේ බැංකුවේ account එකක් තියෙන්න ඕනේ. එයාට වෙන බැංකුවක account එකක් තිබ්බොත් I can send it. If I'm working in a commercial bank, I need to send money to another guy who is maintaining account in HMB. Can I send money? Yes, I can. Similar. Then you don't want to. I don't have an account in HMB to send money. From my bank, I can send it. From my bank, I can send it. SEPT, CP, CFP. Now, similarly, if you have RMA transaction relationship, you can have this kind of transaction with the other counterparty. Nostro relationship means you're opening account with other bank, foreign bank. Right? Now, when you want to send money to any country, basically every bank in Sri Lanka have accounts in different countries, different banks. Now the threat we have at the moment, when the Sri Lanka was downgraded by 3 agencies, similarly they are going to maintain many nostro accounts with their banks. It's a cost to them. Cost to whom? The foreign bank. Now, for example, we say now in US Citibank, there is a bank called Citibank in US. That is the main bank. That is the head office is there, is Citibank or JP Morgan, right? So the Sri Lankan banks have accounts with JP Morgan in dollar terms. If you want to send money to wherever in dollar terms, you can use it like that. But maintaining an account in Sri Lankan bank for Sri Lankan bank in USA with JP Morgan is costly for them. They have to keep a capital allocation for that. So then that's why those banks asking you to improve or increase the volume of transactions. Now that is we call correspondent relationship. Correspondent relationship. Right? So basically your bank correspondent banking division only has this kind of relationship. Right? So there are several questions every year. If something goes wrong with Sri Lanka and pay particles, they also inquire that. So these are the actually KYC requirement, due diligence requirement annually. So they are evaluating whether is it okay for us to maintain this account, to access the account, maintain it. So there are a lot of banks close down the nostro account with it, the recent past. It's very difficult. Now, without having an account, you can't send money to that country. Now, for example, now you are living in Australia. Say now your bank does not have any account in Australia, nostro account in Australia. You can have LC transactions by signing RMA, but without having a nostro account, you can't send money to there. Basically, nostro relationship is very much important. So basically, you should have a proper relationship with those countries as well. Right? So basically, understand here why we need this when we are working in investment banking division. We need to convert it to rupees. Then the conversion part actually done by a bank done by the bank. Bank needs this, right? And what do you mean by cross currency? Cross currency in the sense, for example, we say now you have USD. Now say you are actually you bring you are exporting fee to Germany. Same example, D07 has said. You export fee to Germany. Example. When you export fee to Germany, Germany, what is the currency? Earlier German franc, now they actually converted into euro. Euro is their currency. So then you receive euro. So otherwise you can ask them to send money in terms of dollars. That is also possible. It's also possible. Either euro, either USD. That is possible. Generally, when you exporting tea or whatever the export goods to German or a Euro country, you get what? You get basically in euro terms. In euro terms. So when you receive euro, you should have the account maintaining in euro terms. When you are receiving euro, you should have an account in euro to credit in the same currency. Otherwise, you can convert into rupees and take it. Now, when you convert into rupees, you need to have a bank assistant. Why? Otherwise, you can open a PFC account or BFC account. You can credit whatever the proceeds to this account. Later, you can convert. That is also possible. Now, see, now you are export. Today, today 193 example. 1 USD equals 193. Now the exporter receives USD example, we say, right? Today 193. Today you do the conversion at 193. After 1 week time, you check the market, it has gone up to 198. Are you losing or gaining? Why entered into a transaction 1 week ago? Are you gaining or losing? You have lost. Why? You converted this whatever the receipt amount at 190. Now it has gone up to 190, 198. What has happened to the currency? We discussed. LKR depreciated. The amount you pay has gone up. For a dollar, amount you pay has gone up from 192 to 198. 5 rupees has gone up. Who is benefiting? You have $1 example. Today you convert into LKR at 193. So you have 193 rupees. Otherwise 193 crores, 193 hamra. You have $1. But Pati 198. How much you are getting? 198. By entering into a transaction 1 week ago, you are losing 5 rupees. So when the currency is depreciated, when the country's currency is depreciated, who is benefiting? Exporters are benefiting. But in Sri Lanka, we are much more import-oriented country. Now, if you see the figures, last week the central bank has released annual figures. Now, compared to 2019, from 2020, we have export reduction of 15%. Due to this, then you can't export. Production went down, and also the demand in foreign countries also went down. So basically, you couldn't do that. Export proceeds have come down by 15 point plus 16%, whereas import has come down by 20%. Import has come down by 20%. Now 2020, Now 2020 January we started USD LKR rate at 181. Now it ended up to, as I told you, 186 level, 185, 186 level. So what has happened? Now see now how do you earn foreign currency? One thing is export. One thing is export. When you export whatever the goods to other countries, you receive foreign currency. What else we have? Worker remittances. People who are working abroad, they send money to Sri Lanka. FDIs, foreign direct investment. Tourism. You can borrow dollar terms. And also you have investment in share market, government securities like that. Those are the things you are earning foreign currency. That is equal supply of foreign currency. Supply of foreign currency. Foreign currency supply. Those are the things. Now, in 2020, we have lost everything. We had to block everything except workers' remittances, migrant worker remittances. Now, not as when you compare the previous 2019, 2020, actually all these figures have drastic reduction. 2020, we have a drastic reduction compared to 2019. All these dollar supply or the foreign currency supply except worker remittances. Worker remittances has increased compared to 2019. I'm talking about this 2020 figures, right? The entire year figure. Compared to 2019, it has gone up by 5.8%. So altogether we have $7.1 billion. 2019 වල අපිට හම්බුනේ 6.7. Now 2020 වල අපිට පිටට වැඩ කරන අපේ අයගෙන් හම්බලා තිනවා 7.1 billion history highest. History highest. 7.1 billion. So why this has happened? You should learn. You should know why this has happened. People are losing jobs. They can't go out. Still, people who are working abroad, Sri Lankans who are working abroad, have sent money to Sri Lanka, has grown. Why this has happened? Now, you know, there are informal channels to send money to Sri Lanka. For example, we call it Hawala and Indian method. So generally, when you earn foreign currency in foreign countries, you go to a exchange, money exchange, and you say, I need to convert this money and send money to Sri Lanka in rupee terms. What do they do? They keep foreign currency with them. They are asking people who are living in Sri Lanka to send money to you. But does the foreign currency come into Sri Lanka? No. But 2020, this has actually stopped. This method is not going to work. And also the KYC requirement also has increased. So you can deposit third party account on your own. You can do, but you are under surveillance. The bank is asking you, when you are depositing, you have deposited more than 200,000. They are asking why. Everything is checked. You can't do that. And also now these service actually implemented door-to-door transaction. Now, if you want to send money to there, so now when the bank is asking why you are depositing the third-party account, then agent agent deposit on third-party account why you are depositing here. To avoid that, what do? They actually physically go to their places and deliver money. But were you able to do this in 2020? No, because of this pandemic, no one is doing that. No one is allowed to come to their own places. So actually this has stopped now. You can't send money through this informal channels. Actually this informal channels, sending money from informal channels has converted into formal channels. So that's why we have significant the compared to previous 2019 increase in worker remittances. But apart from worker remittances, other everything has a decrease compared to 2019. So the dollar supply has gone down. Dollar supply has gone down. Now see, now we have import restriction now. You can't import whatever things you need. So by doing that, we are controlling our exchange. Now see, we had this similar import restriction in 2020 as well. But what has happened to our rupee? Still, rupee has depreciated by 5 rupees. Entire, it is percentage-wise 2.6% depreciated. Even we are having import restriction. Why? Import restrictions, no matter now see the import restrictions, but we can't refrain from importing essential goods. We have to, right? So that's why we should have a country, we should have an economy much depending on the local production. Now actually government has introduced the import substitution. Right? So that is a very good thing. Import substitution, without importing, you produce here. I don't know how much it will be successful, but it has to be implemented. Otherwise, that's enough. Even prevailing import restriction, our exchange has depreciated. One thing is we don't have expected the dollar supply. When you have more demand than the supply comes down, demand is going up. So obviously price will go up. Essential goods, you have more demand, and you have to bring it, you have to import it. And also another factor is crude oil bill. Fuel bill has come down by $1.3 billion last year compared to 2019. 2019 crude oil not crude oil fuel bill 3.64 billion. Okay, now this time 2.5 coal, actually the fuel includes coal as well. Galanguru coal has little gone up, but crude oil and the refined oil has come down drastically. So that is basically the reduction of the oil prices. Now 2020 at the start oil price was 70, but end of the period December it's 50 level was into, and now it has again gone up. Why oil prices is going up? Then oil crude oil prices. Why? Why oil prices is going up? Why oil prices is going up? So basically, oil price is going up with the intention that vaccination will be effective. And when the vaccination, this COVID vaccination is effective, and the global demand will come to normalcy. Then people will ask for more demand. People will ask for more things. So the oil prices demand, oil demand will go up. Because of that, prices also tend to go up. Now it started to go up 60 level, right? Vaccination is also possible. So everything is happening. Now when the oil price is going up, it is badly impacted to us. Very impacted to us. Very impacted to us. So the majority of the import bill is for what? In Sri Lanka, the major chunk of import bill is going for oil. 2019 it was $3.9 billion. Now it has come down to 2.5 billion this time. 2.5 billion altogether this time. Due to the price reduction, oil bill has come down. So when a country's rupee is depreciated, when countries in Sri Lanka, when the exchange is depreciated, it is badly impacted to us. Why? We are much more oriented in importation. So the amount you pay for the import is going up when the rupee is depreciated. That's why government needs to maintain, stabilize, not much appreciated, not much depreciated. But not much appreciated, not much depreciated. So it stabilizes the exchange, stabilize, not feel much impacted to import and not feel much impacted to export. So then we need to maintain stabilized exchange rate, right? So it is very difficult task, but we are much more import oriented country, but we'll be able to maintain at least 100. Now it has gone up to 190 level after in January, but it has again come down to 193, 194 level. Now, when you don't have dollars, central bank is pumping dollars to bring down the exchange rate. But how do they do this? Kohin the central bank got done. They have a reserve, gross official reserve. So what does it mean? Basically, official reserve is basically there to measure without having export income how long you can live. When you have more reserves, you can live more without if you don't have any export income, dollar inflow. Now we had 5.7 end of this year, 2020. We were started at 6.5. Yeah, 6.5. We started 2020 January, started at 6.5 or 7.5, 7.5. Now we ended up with 5.7. Now, after this month, January, official figures released after January, official gross reserve is 4.8. It has come down. Why this has come down? Why this has come down? Basically, you put money, you put dollars out of your reserves to the market to stabilize the exchange rate. When you have more demand for the essential goods, you need dollars. You need dollars. So when you need more dollars, if you don't have dollars, central bank has to give. Otherwise, rate is going up. To control the rate, supply has to be done by central bank. Actually, what has actually happened? Curtail the demand, or bring down the demand for dollars, central bank pumping dollars out of their reserve. Out of their reserve. That's so very important to know. This background you should know. Now, every country, they need to maintain stabilized exchange. Now, for example, if you say Japan likes exchange rate to depreciate. USD JPY rate to depreciate they like. Why? Why do they like it? Who is benefiting by depreciating? Who is benefiting by depreciating? Exporter. So Japan is an exporter-oriented country. So then, excuse me. Hello. Oh, हमारा number is not. All right. कोई team? हाँ. Kira team. Kira team मात्र. है क्या नहीं? हाँ. Okay. हाँ. මේක මොකක් ගැනද දැන් ඩිස්කස් කරන්නේ නේද? එහෙම මොකක් හරි කියනවද? हाँ. 9:30 නේ. හරි. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Sorry about it. Now, basically, any country needs to maintain exchange, stabilize exchange. Now, for example, as I told you, now Japan, they like exchange to depreciate. They like exchange rate to depreciate. So depreciate, why? They are much more oriented in export. So the exporters like exchange to depreciate. Like in Sri Lanka, as I told you, the 193, 198 exchange rate to depreciate. So very depreciate. So basically, there are different countries like that, but here we need to have maintain stability. We are much more oriented in uh, import, plus we need to protect the exporters as well. Right? So then that is important. Now see, now when a foreigner comes to Sri Lanka, they'll have to bring money which account we are maintaining. That is also important. Can be tested II account. So when you bring money to Sri Lanka through II account, you can take it money back, whatever the currency to your country. That is one. Right? So then, what do you mean by exchange exposure? That is also important for you to need to know. Then foreigner comes to Sri Lanka, is investing in Sri Lanka with your permission or with your help. Now he may ask you, how can you mitigate the exchange exposure? What do you mean by exchange exposure? Exchange risk. Today you bring money to Sri Lanka at the exchange rate of 193, example. You do an investment in treasury bond, 5-year treasury bond. Make a convert kala dana 5-year treasury bond. After you make a dollar again, 193 you have in rupee. You invested in treasury bond, 5 years. 5-year treasury bond investor after 5 years you are getting 200, example, with the interest. In what form? Rupee terms. Rupee form. Now you want to take this back to your country. So you can't take it in rupee terms, you have to convert into foreign exchange, we say dollars. Now you go to the bank and ask what is the exchange rate. Now the exchange rate is, bank says, selling rate is 200. After 5 years ago, you did the conversion at 193. Now after 5 years time, it has depreciated 7 rupees to 200. Now you want to convert it to dollars. To convert, you do the conversion. How much dollars you are receiving? $1. How much you have brought here to Sri Lanka? $1. Have you earned anything? No. Will the foreigners come to Sri Lanka? No. So after 5 years, you have earned nothing. You have earned nothing. Why? You have earned 93, 200, 7 rupees you have earned. But everything has been wiped off with this exchange rate. You are exposing to an exchange risk. You are exposing to exchange risk. So how do you mitigate this exchange risk? How do you avoid, not to, you can't avoid it. You can, how do you reduce the exchange exposure? Now, for example, why I say you can't avoid? Now, for example, you say it's kind of insurance. Now, you pay insurance installment thinking that you will face an accident. But you never expected to meet an accident. If you don't meet with an accident, the amount you pay as installment is immense. But thinking that I will be not meeting with an accident, do you refrain from paying insurance? You can't. At least you have to go for third party. You can't do that. But if you don't meet with an accident, it's a loss. Similarly, foreign exchange risk mitigating factors, risk mitigating instrument is also similar. Now, for example, we say, now you import a vehicle from Japan. You entered into a contract today. After 3 months only, you are receiving the good vehicle. You entered into a transaction today. How do you call it? What kind of transaction we entered? Forward exchange transaction. The forward exchange transaction. That is what? A derivative instrument. Now, derivative instrument. Hedging instrument. Hedging instrument means instruments which are there to hedge or mitigate the foreign exchange risk, foreign exchange exposure. Foreign exchange transactions are the most popular derivative instrument in Sri Lanka. Forward exchange contract. Now presently, forward exchange contract also banned. You can't have, right? Now with the forward exchange, you can't enter into a forward exchange transaction now due to this undue pressure on foreign exchange. Right? So you can't enter into a transaction. So then you have to keep it open, like foreign investor do. Like foreign investor did, you have to keep it open. 93 conversion after 5 years time, you don't do anything. So after 5 years time you are in 200. Now you go to the bank only now. Now you check it 200. Go now. Nothing is earned. You have not hedged. You have not hedged. You have not mitigated. You have not taken anything to mitigate or bring down or the decrease the foreign exchange risk. You keep it as open. Now you have to do this. Anybody who is importing from abroad, whatever the good, you have to keep it open. You can't have forward exchange. You can't hedge it now. Under the present central bank ruling, you can't do that. You can't do that. Can't do that. So that is important. So basically, so you have to learn it. Rupee denominated instrument and also the hedging instrument. Also, yeah. Now, rupee denominated instrument, you don't want to have a hedging instrument. Why? You don't want to do any hedging. Why? You are investing in Sri Lanka. They are reported currency. What is Sri Lanka reported currency? You don't have anything, any exposure. But if you are dealing with foreign country, different to your country's currency, you are exposed into a risk. Sometimes you may earn by entering. Now, for example, now when you want to enter into a contract, foreign exchange contract, now you are importing a vehicle. You don't enter into a forward exchange contract to hedge the exposure with the bank. You keep it open. Now we say this, now this you export foreign, you import you export tea to Germany, right? You export tea to Germany. Otherwise, we take importation example. Now you import potato from India today. Now the exchange is 193. Thinking that exchange will further depreciate, provided that presently you can't have forward exchange transaction. We say generally we don't have similar restriction, restriction and actually it was same. Today you enter into forward exchange transaction with the bank. You have to make the payment. Example. Lot of transaction with India we are doing it open, but as example we say 3 months only you have to make the payment. Thinking that after 3 months time exchange rate will further depreciate, you enter into foreign exchange, forward exchange transaction with the bank. Today 193, you agree with the bank, okay. I will pay 194 Gane, Masa Punakata, Mansunota Pase, you give me whatever the requirement of my dollar. That's the agreement. You enter it today. Other material Masunaki. Rate එක මම මේක තමයි මට ගෙවන්නේ මම ඩොලර් දෙන්න මේ රේට් එකට that is forward exchange contract. Now after 3 months time we check the market. Now what's the agreed rate? 190. 4. You can't, you have to honor it, this transaction. You enter into a contract. Now you check the market. Now the market has come down to 190. You can purchase dollars by giving rupees 190. But can you say that Nana Matame 190 forward on nature in our market is at 190? Uh, uh, can I go away with this agreement? Can you say that? You have entered into a transaction, you have entered into a contract, you have bonded it, you have to honor it. Now here in this particular transaction, you want to hedge it, you want to bring down the exposure, you want to mitigate the foreign exchange exposure. What has happened actually? You are losing. මම එක මුකුත් නොකර හිටියා. මට මාස 3කින් ඩොලර්ස් ගන්න දීප 194 නෙමෙයි 190. But can you predict it now? After 3 months time, what will be the rate here? But you think in Sri Lanka generally rupee depreciated, so that's why I have entered into contract. But unfortunately, rupee has appreciated. But I am losing. Because I am saying $1 190. Oh. So the hedging instrument or the derivative instrument are there not to earn profit, but to hedge, but to minimize the foreign exchange risk. Foreign exchange. Sometimes you can earn profit. Sometimes you can make losses as well. So when you're doing the question, you can understand. So the question can come, I think, question can come if the examiner needs to put the question from this section. Now since he has tested this cross currency, he has always tested this cross currency transaction with you, he can ask this kind of transaction. Are you recommending to go for a foreign exchange transaction under this year? Now this now say 193. You entered into a forward exchange contract with the bank to receive dollars at 194, whereas the market is after 3 months time market is at 190. Examiner can give you, test you. Is it worthwhile for you to give a or enter into a foreign exchange transaction? For a forward exchange contract? Forward exchange contract. So are you recommending? Or are you making profit? Are you losing? So that kind of question can be tested for 5 marks. 5 mark question examiner only 2014 only 5 mark question is tested. Other than that, he has not tested for 5 marks under foreign exchange. Foreign exchange. Right? So basically important to learn, not in too much, but and also we'll be learning later the derivative instrument I have uploaded. I have given you the note on this. So, derivative instrument, internal and external hedging instrument. So there you have option, that is external. Option you have for European and American. For 2 mark question, examiner tested the meaning of European option. So options are not much widely used instrument in Sri Lanka. Options are not widely used derivative instrument in Sri Lanka. But the examiner has tested the meaning of European option. But in the tools, everything is available. But we are actually touching the required portion only. Right? So generally, this is not a pet area for investment banking. Foreign exchange, very minimal involvement. So foreign comes to Sri Lanka, so the investment bank is, so basically the foreign exchange transaction, your involvement is foreign has to come to Sri Lanka to invest in whatever the rupee denominated instrument, otherwise no foreign exchange transaction. Sometimes I have given you role of the foreign investment banking. There you can have a loan syndication. I will be giving a note on loan syndication. Loan syndication, you can arrange it. investment banking, but that is also mainly focused in Sri Lanka, LKR denominated. But foreign countries loan syndication also happening. But Sri Lankan investment banking people are not much involved in arranging foreign currency loan syndication. Those are the people who are arranging foreign banks. The Lanka even foreign banks, HSBC, Citi, Central Bank, they are the people who are arranging. They have the international presence. So they know the investor. They are the people who are arranging for Sri Lanka loan syndicate. Now I can remember, but you can do this. Now, if your company needs foreign funding, you can ask one of the investment banking company to arrange it. So then they will also contact these people and arrange it. They will earn whatever the fee. That can be happen. Now, a lot of foreign funding arrangement happen, individual foreign funding. Separate. So some banks are there, they don't have foreign presence. So some financial institution, they don't have foreign presence. So they will ask them to, now for example, now we say to open, to issue a debenture. So you don't, your company, if your company, your bank, your company needs to issue a debenture, you don't issue it on your own. Basically, you entrust to one of the investment banking companies to do this on behalf of you. Bank, of course, you are doing on your own. Banks have the capabilities to do this, issue of debentures. But private firms, they are not having that expertise. So then they are asking somebody else to do this on behalf of you. On behalf of you. They are asking somebody else to do this. So like similarly, if you want foreign funding, you can ask one of these foreign investment banking people to do it. That can be happen. So important thing is this loan syndication. I'll be giving a note on. Basically, you get together and give loan. Investment banking people are much involved in Sri Lanka, not foreign loan syndication. But you can arrange individual funding. That can be right. Now, any question you have? Do you have any question to raise? Very interesting subject. This foreign exchange as a general or a layman citizen in the country, you should know what's happening to the exchange, how the exchange rate in particular country. Since you are working in banks or financial institution, you should have a kind of knowledge what has happened to the exchange house, what is happening, and what will happen. So all these three. So basically, you should know what has happened. As I told you, what was the start of the exchange, end of state, what's the present, and what will happen in the future. Now, the future, if we don't receive the expected supply of dollars, this the further weakening of exchange is inevitable. You can't avoid it. You have more demand, you don't have supply. Obviously, when you have more demand than the supply, prices should go up. Exchange should go up. Rupees should depreciate. Right? So basically, you have a sense. මොකද්ද මේ exchange එකට වෙන්නේ? ඒතර මේ central bank එක කොහොමද මේ exchange එකට මේක now in Sri Lanka we have free floating. You are allowed to determine the exchange rate based on the demand and supply. Demand and supply. Demand and supply. Actually, demand and supply. Demand and supply, but manage free floating. Manage free floating. Manage free floating in the sense what? You are giving intervention whenever the requirement arises. Whenever the requirement arises, you intervene. Who is you? Central bank. How do they intervene? By pumping dollars, so by buying dollars from the market. Either central bank has purchased dollars from the market in the sense from the banks, and if the requirement arises, they pump into the market. How do they pump into the market dollars? As I told you, out of the reserve. When you put dollars into the market out of the reserve, what has happened to the country's general gross reserve? Coming down. Is it good for a country or bad? It is bad for the country. $4.8 billion is not enough for a country. Now we have a ISB to be settled, 1 billion July. ISB is what? International sovereign bonds. Similarly, treasury bonds are issued in Sri Lanka to raise money by the government. Then similarly, you issue debenture to raise money to your bank, to your financial institution. Similarly, that is in rupees. Similarly, Sri Lanka government has issued bonds overseas, out of Sri Lanka to raise funds for the government. What funds? Dollar funds. From whom? Foreign investors. International sovereign bonds. International sovereign bonds. So the similar instrument is what locally we are having SLDG. SLDG are issued in dollar terms. That is locally. But anybody can participate, right? Foreigners also can be participated at SLDG auctions. But ISB is only for foreigners. We need fresh funds. We need fresh funds. We need new money. We need new dollars to the country. So that's why we are actually issuing overseas or offshore investors to invest in D07 sovereign bonds, and we have not issued any international sovereign bonds last year. But we have settled $1 billion sovereign bond, and this year also we are going to settle July 1. We have July 1 sovereign bond. If you don't reissue this, meaning you have to pay out of your reserves. So the reserve will further come down if you don't have much supply. Now we have opening for tourism. We are expecting at least 1 billion tourism income this year. Tourism generally we are getting 4 billion. 2018 we have 4 billion. Due to the Easter Sunday attack, it has come down to 3.6 billion. Generally we are having $4 billion. Now this time we have how much? We have only 200 something, I think. We have 73% reduction compared to 2019. Tourism income, 73% reduction. I think it's 200 or something. We had only now 2019 we had tourists of 1.9. 2020 we had only 504,000 tourists to Sri Lanka. So we are expecting 1 billion tourism income this year. Right? We have opened the airport. We have opened for tourists as well. We are expecting more. Otherwise, very difficult to survive in terms of foreign currency, foreign money. Right? So then basically we should know if the foreign income or the foreign currency supply does not come into Sri Lanka, then how can we survive? We have to do more export, but export also you can't do what the foreign countries demand has come down. They are also actually pandemic situation worse those countries. So demand has come down. People have restriction to move. People are coming to Sri Lanka without having their losing without the basically losing their jobs and all. So how can we do this? Very difficult, but we'll have to do this. But very slowly, 2021 is going to be not a good year, but year of consolidation. We have put a foundation there. So I think we can come out of this pandemic situation. Be very difficult, but we'll have to do this. But slowly, we are picking up. Right? We are picking up. So this is one of the very lucrative foreign currency source tourism. So now you know people who are working abroad, Sri Lankans are coming to Sri Lanka. So it's very difficult to expect the same amount of foreign currency remittances this year. But the government intention is to increase the foreign remittances, but they can do that. But I think people are also leaving the country as well for the foreign jobs. That is also happening. Like coming to Sri Lanka, also some countries people are hiring, people are leaving also. Now it's happening now. So we'll see what will happen now. Foreign exchange market. Only thing, these questions, of course, I will be taking with you all. One or two questions I'll be taking with you all to do this. Any question you have? So basically, I need to further elaborate the derivative transaction, derivative instrument with you all. So then with the derivative instrument, I will be giving a short note. I have uploaded everything, the Word document. Only thing we'll be discussing internal and external hedging instrument with you all. So that is more than enough for you to face this exam. We don't want to do. I will be not taking all these questions with you all. Those are not relevant to you. But if you want to enhance your knowledge, these are very good instruments, very good questions on foreign exchange transaction. This is the instrument we have been learning, hedging instrument. Now this exposure netting and all those things internal, which are not much using. Internal hedging mechanisms are not using. External ones are the only using. External ones are the only using. So we'll be learning each one with your meaning of it. We are not doing now. We're not doing any questions on this, but I'll be taking some questions with you on this foreign exchange transaction. As I told you now, is it worthwhile? Is it a good decision for you to go to foreign exchange forward exchange contract or no? Similar question. Examiner can test it. That kind of question with you from your. Otherwise, he won't be. But this is the question examiner has tested. This is currency option. There are two types of options. There is three: American, European, and Bermuda. But examiner has tested the European options. You are to write it. The multiple choice question, the first question it came now in the first question you have sub questions of 10 sub questions under one. But last 2-3 questions, 7, 8, 9, or 7, 8, 9, 10. Those questions you have to write it. Other questions only the multiple choice question you have to select out of 4. But here you have to write it. Examiner tested you the meaning of European option. So we'll be touching the meaning of what are these derivative instruments. It is not required in-depth knowledge. In-depth knowledge is not required for you to face this exam, investment banking. So proprietary trading will be touching on the requirement, required part only. So then basically we can finish it off next week. Everything. Any question you have? So I'll be taking some questions this cross-currency transaction with you also, right? The examination question and the one or two questions I have given to you. But anyway, with the coverage of syllabus, after we are taking past papers, I'll be taking some questions from uh, uh, the other exam, financial market operations. I'll be taking some questions from that paper and we'll be doing, so we can complete it. Everything. There are very good questions there. For you to enhance your knowledge, we'll be taking that questions only. Otherwise, we'll be covering on the required portions only. Right? Any questions before we wind up the class on foreign exchange transaction? I think very important subject for you to learn. Very hot subject, and you have some sense of knowledge what's happening. Do you have any questions? Percent exchange rate or whatever? Do you have any questions? Menaka, I can't hear you. Do you have any question? Right. Since you don't have any question, we will wind up the class. We will be taking some questions next week on this foreign exchange proprietary trading. Then we'll be moving to, and I have given you wealth management note as well for you to read. The next time I'll be giving loan syndication note as well for you to read. So then we will move into the mergers and acquisition. So basically, we have come to a significant portion of your syllabus. So then, thank you very much for listening. If you have any question, please bring it next week if you want. Right? Thank you, student.